The frostbit winds of December howled through the canyons of Los Angeles, clawing at the palm trees and rattling the gates of a Beverly Hills estate that loomed like a monolith against the moonless sky. Inside, warmth and wealth conspired to keep the cold at bay. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto marble floors, and the scent of aged whiskey mingled with the faint, acrid undertone of something burning. But beneath the opulence, in a chamber hidden behind a false wall in the library, a different kind of gathering was underway. Elias Blackthorne, a man whose name carried the weight of boardrooms and billion-dollar mergers, stood at the center of the dimly lit room. His black silk robe, tailored to perfection, shimmered faintly as he raised a dagger forged from obsidian. Around him, 11 figures, CEOs, philanthropists, heirs to dynasties, stood in a semicircle, their faces half-shadowed by hoods. Their breaths fogged the air, though the fireplace across the room had long gone cold. Sanguis pro sanguine, Elias intoned, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate in the bones of those present. Ossa pro ossibus. The altar before him was a grotesque masterpiece. The carcass of a great horned owl, its wings pinned open with rusted nails, lay atop a bed of bones, ribs of wolves, femurs of deer, and fragments of smaller creatures that defied identification. Candles, black as pitch, dripped wax like coagulated blood onto the stone floor. Margot Voss, a tech mogul with a reputation for dismantling rivals, shuddered as the chant swelled. Her gloved fingers tightened around a silver pendant, a last-minute impulse, a trinket from her childhood she'd dug out of a jewelry box that morning. She told herself it was foolishness. They'd done this before. The whispers, the cold, the visions. They were part of the price, a toll paid to entities that offered power in exchange for devotion. But tonight felt different. The first sign came as the dagger pierced the owl's hollow chest. A sound like 1,000 cicadas erupted from the shadows, followed by a gust of wind that snuffed out every candle. Darkness swallowed the room. Someone, a man, his voice high with panic, cursed. Then, as if summoned by the void itself, the blue fire ignited. It hovered above the altar, a seething sphere of light that cast no warmth. Margot's breath hitched as the flames twisted into shapes. A leering face, a skeletal hand, a mouth stretched wide in silent laughter. The air thickened with the stench of rot. "Do not falter," Elias barked, though his knuckles whitened around the dagger. "Continue the incantation." The group obeyed, their voices rising in a discordant chorus. Latin blended with older, rougher tongues. Words scraped from forgotten grimoires. Phonetics guessed at by scholars who died screaming. The fireball pulsed, and the shadows on the walls began to move. Clara Nguyen, the youngest of the group, a venture capitalist with a taste for the occult and a recent inheritance, felt it first, a breath against her ear, icy and deliberate. "You'll join me soon," it whispered in the voice of her mother, dead 6 years to the day. Clara stumbled, her chant dissolving into a whimper. "Eyes forward!" Elias snapped, but the damage was done. The room erupted. A woman to Margot's left screamed as a shadow peeled itself off the wall and lunged at her, its form a tangle of limbs and teeth. Another member, an aging oil tycoon, dropped to his knees, clawing at his throat as the voice of his drowned son gibbered in his ear. The fireball split into embers that swarmed like wasps, stinging exposed skin. Through the chaos, Clara's screams rose above the rest, shrill, guttural wrong. Margot turned just as Clara's body arched backward, her spine bending at an impossible angle. The woman's eyes rolled into her skull, leaving only milky white, and her mouth unhinged like a serpent's. A wet, grinding roar tore from her throat, a sound that belonged to no human language. "She's breached the circle," someone shouted. Elias lunged for Clara, but she moved faster. Her hand, twisted into a claw, lashed out, raking 4 jagged lines across his cheek. Blood welled, black in the eerie light, as she spun toward the others. Her head jerked side to side, as if puppeted by invisible strings, and the voices that spilled from her were a cacophony of the dead, a chorus of drowned sailors, strangled infants, suicides mid-fall. "You promised U.S. flesh," the thing inside Clara boomed, its words shaking the floor. "You promised U.S. blood." Panic unspooled the group's resolve. They fled, knocking over chalices and trampling the sacred bones in their rush to the door. Elias, gripping his bleeding face, hesitated only a moment before following. Behind him, Clara's laughter echoed through the chamber, mingling with the owl's corpse as it began to twitch. The deaths came swiftly, each more grotesque than the last. Margot watched from her ivory tower as the group unraveled. Lila Carmichael, a media heiress, was found in her pool, her lungs filled with tar. The symbol was painted on the diving board. Marcus Trent, a pharmaceutical mogul, tore out his own tongue before setting himself ablaze. The flames, witnesses claimed, burned blue. By the third month, only Margot and Elias remained. They met one final time in the abandoned ritual chamber. The owl's corpse was gone, but the altar remained, stained with old blood. Elias's hands shook as he lit the black candles. "We'll offer ourselves," he said. "A voluntary sacrifice. It's the only way to appease them." Margot laughed, the sound bordering on hysterical. "You still don't understand. We're not in control. We never were." As if summoned, the temperature dropped. The candles flickered, and the whispers began, 100 voices overlapping, hungry and gleeful. Elias's scream was cut short as an invisible force lifted him off the ground, his limbs snapping like kindling. Margot ran, but the door slammed shut. She awoke hours later, alone, the symbol scrawled in Elias's blood beneath his mangled body. 6 months to the day after the ritual, Detective Sarah Alvarez stood in Margot's penthouse, staring at the symbol on the floor. The tech mogul's body lay in the center, her face frozen in a rictus of terror, her hands clutching a silver pendant. "Same as the others," Alvarez muttered, snapping a photo. Her partner, a rookie still green enough to believe in happy endings, frowned. "What's it mean, you think?" Alvarez didn't answer. She'd seen the symbol before. Not in case files, but in dreams. Dreams that had started the night she'd first entered Elias Blackthorne's mansion on a routine welfare check. Dreams were something with too many teeth, whispered promises in a language she somehow understood. She pocketed the pendant. Outside, the winter wind hissed through the streets, carrying the faint sound of laughter.